trauma-informed practices are going to be important, to be a part of, the conversation and moving forward, and really making sure that we are satisfying all of our students' needs and desires, and just again, partners of every kind, to be at the table, to be in those conversations. So I think that, again, as we move forward, partners are going to be really important and key, for all of us as organizations to be able to support one another, and just provide additional resources that, again, we may not have in-house, and even thinking about as a nonprofit, when we go for funding, sometimes, because of the size of our organization, because of how long, we've been established, sometimes it is, wise, advantageous for us to partner with someone else, again, for grant funding, to be able to have more visibility, longevity, and hopefully secure the funds, again, to keep impacting the communities. Dr. Brunson, you want to say anything about partnerships?
Partnerships are crucial because it brings folks from different backgrounds and focuses that have a cross-pollination of synergy in a specific place together. And strength in numbers is not a new thought process. This is something that has moved, cultures and civilizations and businesses and families since the beginning of time. Is that, two are better than one. And the more folks of like mind that you can bring together working on a common cause, outcomes can begin to exist. And so outcomes are important in the work that we do, because, you want to have a means to an end, a goal, a structure, plans, strategy that lead to a desired outcome. And so partnerships allow us to come together, and each partner utilizing their strengths, utilizing their focuses and their numbers of how many folks they may have working on a matter. And it allows organizations, especially for the arts and education, and responding to trauma of young people, it allows us to really identify what's working and what's not working. Partnerships also add another layer of focused accountability, because when you're working with another organization or another partner, folks are, collaborating and bringing each other along in certain places and strengthening each other through, exchange of knowledge and experience that could help the other once a partnership is not in play anymore. And so partnerships have a multifaceted beneficiary, type of energy that we really support and admonish in our work.
Yeah, I want to try to involve some of the people on the call, because again, I know we have people from different, backgrounds and disciplines, artists, maybe some OST providers, even some arts organizations or arts education organizations, and kind of expanding on this partnership question. I'm sure that everybody has, been following the news and paying attention, of course, to what the return of schools, is going to look like. And part of that conversation has been these learning hubs or pods or learning centers that are popping up, and being thought of really around the country. There was an article, I think a couple of days ago in the Boston Globe, about some of the strategies that they're putting in place in Boston, again, connected to these learning hubs. And we're beginning to have some of those same conversations in Maryland, in various counties that, and for anybody who's unfamiliar, the idea is that, of course, we know schools for the most part are going back, at least in the public sector, virtually, 100% virtually. And, while we understand the safety precautions and things that need to be put in place, and why those decisions were made. There's also, a concern about parents who are not able to continue teleworking and do have to return to work. And so now it's a challenge of, who's going to be at home with their children in terms of childcare, ensuring that students will actually get online and, participate in classes and do what it is they're supposed to do. And so the idea for these learning hubs or pods is that it is a small, group of students who will be, in a small cohort with an adult. That adult would provide, again, support for their virtual classes, making sure they get online, they're logged in, they're paying attention, all of that great stuff, as well as provide some recreation, some enrichment. Students will be will be fed, at these learning hubs as well. Even going back to the last question that we just talked about, though, in terms of equity, it becomes a question of who gets access, right, to these hubs, because we're clear that we cannot serve every child. So do you serve, those students with IEPs and that have, special learning needs? Do you serve, students whose families, are essential workers, parents are essential workers and go back to school? It's also, again, as these are being formed in different states, some of them have a cost, for parents, and some of them are provided at no cost. So even, again, looking at the ones that are provided at a cost, we automatically are leaving out and creating inequities, in terms of, again, who has the resources and support and who doesn't, because if you don't have the income to pay, $900 a month or whatever it is for your students to attend these learning hubs, then they're sort of left out. So I want to just kind of open this up to get any thoughts around these learning hubs. Anybody have any thoughts, ideas about strategies for the learning hubs, or just anything that you want to share about that, or even partnerships and why you think partnerships are important, or even how we can strategize to make our partnerships even more impactful. So any thoughts around that? And again, if you could just raise your hand, and then I will take you off of mute. All right, Lindsay, I think you should be able to talk. So Lindsay, you should be able to unmute yourself. I've enabled you on my end.
Can you hear me?
I can. Hi there.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. Sorry, I'm driving right now. I think I might have accidentally raised my hand, but I've been enjoying the conversation. And I'm in Philadelphia, so it's great to hear, what's happening down in Maryland, and how the community is coming together to really raise more awareness, especially around the trauma issue, because I see that here in Philadelphia, working in some of the public schools. It's something that's really big that needs to be addressed. In terms of fundraising, not really sure how to move forward with that. Maybe teaming up with some local organizations, but I've been enjoying this conversation, and would love to discuss how, moving beyond Maryland, how we could also, do something here in Philadelphia, working together.
That would be great. What do you do, Lindsay?
I teach art and yoga and meditation and wellness classes.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I like to fuse, them all together, especially the mindfulness component through art. I find that a really effective way to share those lifestyle skills, especially with children. So, and it seems to be incredibly effective.
We love mindfulness. We do a lot of work with our staff on both mindfulness and also restorative practices and restorative circles. So definitely would love to talk more about the work that you're doing and maybe how, again, we can partner.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Yes, thank you so much for being here. Anyone else want to speak to the learning hubs or centers? Any thoughts? I'm just curious about because there are people that have a lot of different opinions about these hubs and these centers. And again, should they move forward? Should they not? If they do, just even thoughts about how they would look and how they would be structured. So I see Robin. I think you have your hand raised. I'm gonna unmute you, and you should be able to come off of mute. Are you there, Robin? There seem to be two of you, but one is unmuted, one isn't. So I'm not sure if you are able to, but you should be able to unmute on your end. We can't hear you, so I'm gonna keep going, and hopefully we can figure out the audio so that you can join us and be a part of the conversation. I'm gonna go on to our next question, which is, how do you think? And this is, again, oh, Robin, are you there? Oh, there's some feedback. Robin, are you there? Okay. All right. I'm gonna keep going. So the teaching artist, and thinking about the role of the teaching artist and how that role will evolve or even change over time. And so at LTYC, we have a large staff of teaching artists. We, really value our teaching artists. We typically will place a teaching artist, an instructor, in a school or program that they, live or go to school or worship in. I mean, we want them to be familiar with the community. And so I'll start off answering this. And then again, I know there's some artists on the line. We would love to hear from you. I'm going to ask Dr. Brunson, of course, to chime in. I'm sure he has some thoughts as well, but definitely want to hear from you all, especially anybody on the line who is an artist or, considers yourself to be a teaching artist, to see what your thoughts are about how this role may change or, again, evolve. So my thought about this question and just thinking about the teaching artist is that right now, and I would say really pre-COVID, we're in COVID now, but really has been about the teaching artist being a support, an additional resource in the classroom for sure, but also looking at the teaching artist, I think, as a guest is really the mentality that a lot of schools have had in the past, and partners have had. Teaching artists a lot of times will come in and do a residency. They're not there. They're not necessarily embedded in the school culture because they're kind of in, for a couple of weeks and out. And so, I think that again has the capacity for people to have the thought about a teaching artist being a guest. What I would love to see, I don't know that it will happen. I don't know how quickly this would evolve in terms of thinking about the teaching artists. I think we really have to think of teaching artists as experts. They are content experts. I think that they're going to be critical to looking at the arts education space in the next, let's say, 10 years, because I believe, again, that teaching artists, one of the many things that they bring to the table is that they are a part of the community. They are connected to the community. With the proper training, they have a super connection to children, making things relevant. When we talk about arts integration in particular, students who struggle with math or with reading, and have, a great arts integration lesson that is still, focusing on that academic content, but is weaving in that artistic content, and they're learning about fractions, but through an artistic lens, and they get it, and the light bulb goes off. I've been in classrooms and seen those moments, like I'm sure many of you have. So I think that we have to value, is I guess a good word that I'm thinking of. We have to value our teaching artists more than I believe that we do now, and really consider them to be an expert in your classroom, and not just, again, a guest, an additional support, a break. I've even seen teachers feel like that if a teaching artist is coming in and they're doing a workshop, it's a break for them, and rather than an opportunity for that teacher to learn and to gain from some of the strategies and techniques of that artist. So I'm really hoping that, again, post COVID, or even during COVID, as we have to rethink education, I think, in general, and at large, and how we have typically, executed our education and our systems of education. We have to reimagine what all of that is going to look like. I'm really hoping that teaching artists will be a part of that reimagining, and how we can, again, give them more value and space to be able to be the great assets that they are in the classroom. Um, Dr. B, do you have any thoughts about teaching artists? Do you
I,
want to add?
I think that teaching artists, I love what you said about the, looking at it from a 10-year span. I definitely think that teaching artists are, currently very much undervalued, and as a part of the education system as a whole, both public and private. I think that, teaching artists are very valuable as it relates to bringing the practitioner's uh, experiential point of view to the classroom. And so I love what you said about expert in a particular field. I think that teaching artists are, definitely an asset as it relates to, new methods of relationship building, because you only can learn certain things from someone who you believe has it to give, or you respect. And so, it works for children as well. Children need classroom environments to, be conducive for creative learning. And teaching artists bring the creative energy, the creative thoughts, ideas, strategies, and plans that often young people will connect to and open up to. And I know, as a young person coming through a conservatory model style of education, from the age of 12 through 17, I experienced some of my greatest educational and artistic lessons from teaching artists that were bringing their experience to their lessons. So, I think that that's the evolution is now in a season where, it's moving to allow teaching artists to have a real seat at the table as it relates to how decisions are being made for education of young people.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And I'm hoping that that is the case, that I love the seat at the table, right? And I think that, again, based on all of the things that we're saying, the teaching artist must have a seat at the table. And I don't think that previously they have. And I'm, going to be positive and believe that in the future they will, because I think that it is so essential, and they just, they bring so much. And I think, again, as we are, even in COVID, and as decisions about how students will return to school, I get very concerned about who's at the table having those conversations. I mean, we push out all of these surveys, and surveys are great, right? We can collect data from parents and families on what they want and that sort of thing. But I also feel like there has to be, again, a conversation. And, when the final decisions are being made or thought through even as, again, it relates to going back to school. I just wonder, was there a parent that was on that committee? Was there a teaching artist that was on that committee? Were, different content areas in school, in terms of teachers, were they represented? Of course, principals, were they a part of the conversation? It's interesting to think about that. So I love that, sort of analogy of at the table. And I do really hope that teaching artists will be at the table in the future, again, looking at the next 10 years, sooner rather than later, though. I know we had a couple of artists that have joined us this morning. Any thoughts? I would love to hear from someone who, again, is an artist or works with youth, teaching artists, or anybody who isn't and has, an opinion or thought about the role of the teaching artist. Do we have anyone who'd like to say anything about that? And just, again, what your thoughts are on the role of the teaching artist? I see Tracy is on here. I'm not going to call out anybody. See, sometimes I will call people out. I'm going to be nice this morning. I'm not going to be in teacher mode. My teachers always did volunteer or voluntold. Anybody? I don't know if anybody else has experienced that. All right, Tracy. See, I peer pressured her. Tracy, you should be able to come off of mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I too am driving, so I apologize for the background noise. And you did call me out. Thank you very much. But I do have something to say.
Of course you do.
In terms of and this may not be exactly in terms of the role of the teaching artist, but I see a need for nurturing our older student artists, like through junior high and high school, with some potential or with some potential for the high school to college pipeline in the arts. And I'm wondering if there is any opportunity, and this may go back to the partnership discussion, but if there's any opportunity with partnerships, perhaps on a college campus, that will prepare our young aspiring artists to, further education in their craft, and whether or not teaching artists would have a role there as well. So those are the thoughts that's what I was thinking about through the whole partnership conversation. I just wasn't sure if it was appropriate.
No,
At that time.
Totally appropriate. It's something that Dr. Brunson and I have talked about as well. Like you said, kind of catering to that older population. We started a program last year, and it was actually really a little bit prior to when COVID happened. So, depending on what this year looks like, we'll see, how we can effectively implement the program. But the idea of it is to do an arts apprenticeship, because one of the things that we noticed, in just doing research and talking to businesses and things of that nature, is that a lot of times when students in college or even middle to high school are doing an apprenticeship, most often it is not on, based around an arts career. It is, something in construction or something in administration or something of that nature. So we designed a program to connect with businesses, theaters, museums, salons, because we have, fashion and cosmetology program, where exactly what you're saying, students can, we can nurture them. And also it is a way for those, that age range to see the arts as a viable pathway. As a viable career. I think a lot of times, a child may say, I want to be a singer, I want to be this, I want to be that, and something connected to the arts. And parents are like, okay, but what are you really going to do? But like, you can't do that and, make a career out of it. And so, I think we have to be careful with that and just nurture those, those talents and interests that our young people have. And they may not be, the next Beyonce, if we're talking about singers, but there's so many different tracks that, can be connected to music. I was on a call last week, and a young lady had gone to a high school where she felt like She was only exposed to a certain type of music, was pushed really to, again, become a singer, become an opera singer, professional singer. And now she's like a musical engineer. And she was like, through her training, like she was never exposed to any of that. She didn't even know that that was an option, for her. And so I think that, again, we just have to rethink a lot of things that we're doing generally, like Dr. Brunson said, at large, but also specifically as it relates to arts education. So definitely, thank you so much
Mm-hmm.
for the comment. Anybody else have anything connected to the role of the teaching artist and how it may evolve over time? I am looking at our time, so I'm just looking at the questions that we have. I'm going to ask Dr. Brunson a question. I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to go to this one, and we may have time for one more, but just in case, I did want us to get to this one. So Dr. Brunson, being the amazing leader that you are, like you said, having been in arts programs, conservatory models at a very young age, now being, a leader of a leading arts education organization. What are any of your recommendations for the field when we talk again about looking at the next, 10 years, 15, 25 years in terms of arts education? What are some of the things that you think we should be thinking about, talking about? What do you recommend for us?
Well, first of all, thank you for your kind words. But I think that, humbly, I believe that, it's really about an inward journey for all administrators, educators, teaching artists, that we just follow a creative path. Creativity is the springboard for change. Creativity is the springboard for change, whether you're talking about industrially, you're talking about medicine, right? Right now we have a bunch of people scrambling and trying to figure out things related to COVID and vaccines and health. Creativity pushes that mentality. That's the part of the brain that allows you to develop, to evolve, to, find out. And so I think that my recommendation for the field is that we all, stay creative, that we don't become too bogged down with the mundaneness of the system, or the mundaneness of the daily grind of education and promoting and advocating for the arts. We must stay really true to the creative nature that exists in us and push forward that way. I think our creativity then could possibly connect to the creativity that are in the hearts and minds of children. And so if the creativity has a marriage and comes together, now we're beginning to identify the needs of this generation and the next generation for education and for arts and culture, because we've connected with them. So if we stay in our silo and believe that we have the educational, practice and experience, and not do the research at a creative level, I think that the research at a creative level allows us to be free and take that journey. Of course, true freedom exists within inside structure. So the structure being existent, whether you're experiencing arts education in school-based, summer, after school, in a one-on-one, in a mentoring setting, in an arts apprenticeship setting, the truth of the matter is that the magic happens when creativity exists. And so that's my only recommendation, is that we all really stay, creative and inspire and promote creativity in the hearts of the adults and the leaders, but also with the young people.
Definitely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I think, I'll speak to that a little bit. I definitely agree. And I think it's just a reminder, I know for me personally, to remind myself every day, when I look in the mirror, to be creative, to stay creative, to tap into my creative self. I think, again, not knowing everyone's sort of role here on the call, but you speaking from mine, a lot of, what I'm doing as a leader of the organization is, administrative and operational, and, making sure, things work and things go, and that we have opportunities. And so I definitely love what you're saying, because I do constantly, for me, again, personally, have to remind myself, well, get back to the artist, the Dana who is the artist, right? And then when I do tap into that, then, I'm able to create new programs, or, again, new opportunities or new visions for where we are going. But that is, it's a struggle uh, for me, not to be creative, but just, again, to remind myself that that person even exists. Because by trade, I went to school for the arts, and so by trade, I'm an actress. I can't tell you the last time I stepped on anyone's stage and did any acting, but that's who I am as an artist. And so tapping back into that, and, again, like you said, the creative, my creative being and spirit, most definitely, when I do serves the organization, and, like you said, by extension, will serve the children, that we are serving. So I think that that's definitely a great recommendation. I would add to this in terms of just recommendations, and some of them we talked about already, sort of, captured in our conversation. I think that we have to definitely be strategic about our partnerships, again, and what they look like, what purpose they are serving, how we are meeting the needs of our community. I think that we have to continue to make sure that all of the stakeholders are a part of the conversation, so that we are, for arts education, creating programs and instruction that meet those needs, and meet the interest of those students and those children. And I think that we, generally speaking, nationally, there has to be some conversation around how social justice must be a part of arts education. I think that there are certain people, certain organizations, certain cities that focus on, making activism a part of art. I'm a a believer in that they should, be working in tangent together. And I think that, we'll see a brighter world and future, that the more that we can implement that. I just think it's amazing how much art is a part of everyone's lives, even if you don't, consciously think about it. When you, go into your car and you're turning on the radio, that's art, it's music. And I think about, just even, again, looking over the last 5 months, how much art has been created as a response to, again, George Floyd, or as a response to, I'm in the house, I've been in the house for 5 months and I'm about to go crazy. Let me paint this canvas. Art is a response to a lot of different things socially. And so I think, I would even venture, this is not going to happen immediately, but we, of course, in education, always look at standards. So of course we have standards on the fine arts, and we have standards for science, and standards for this and that, for college and career readiness. I would love to see in the next 10 years standards that speak specifically to social justice and activism and culture and community, and how we can really make that a part of curriculum for everyone, not just for arts education, but for all subjects. I think that will help us, again, to see some shifts in our education system. So I have anybody, I don't see any hands. Anybody have anything that they want to share in terms of thoughts for recommendations for the field? Any visions that you see for the arts education space for the next 10 years or more? All right. So I'm just looking at our time. I wanted to allow Anybody that has any questions, please feel free, again, to raise your hand or to put it in the chat as well. We can see the chat and we can answer the questions. Wanted to make sure that we share our contact information. So myself and Dr. Brunson's information is listed there, as well as our general email information, our website, our phone number, and we are on social media. So please, please, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or we're everywhere. And just again, a couple of things as we close out. Again, to be mindful of and wanting to share with you things that we're doing as an organization. We are launching LTYC Learn, which is our virtual platform. It will allow us to have more conversations like this, more experts being a part of the conversations, to offer webinars and trainings to teachers and leaders and artists, even children. We'll be offering virtual arts classes as a part of LTYC Learn as well. So if you are not signed up to receive our mailing list or to receive our newsletters and our emails, please make sure that you go to the website and sign up so that you can stay informed with more events and opportunities like this that we're having. Again, very important for us to be connected to the community, connected to everyone who is on this call, whether it's artists, teacher, I think I saw therapist was on here, leader. This has been valuable conversation and information for us to take back and again continue to create, like Dr. Brunson said, and to be innovative and to make sure that we are meeting the need, and being the light in the dark places. So we really thank you again for your time this morning, and we'll be looking forward to talking with everybody and hopefully being in person with everybody one day really soon. So thank you all so much for your time and have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care, everybody.